Now, the US Defense Secretary Robert Gates is promising a criminal investigation into how documents about the Afghan crisis ended up on the anonymous WikiLeaks website. America's top military official suggested those behind the leaks may already have blood on their hands. But the WikiLeaks founder, Julian Assange, has denied his actions have caused harm, says the material was offered to the White House for vetting first. In a moment, we'll debate how far freedom of speech should go with Heather Brooke, whose work with the Freedom of Information Act exposed the MP's expenses, and the hacker, Adrian Lamo, who reported the soldier who made contact with him to the authorities. First, a reminder of just how heated the words at the top have now got.
Mr. Assange can say whatever he likes about the greater good he thinks he and his source are doing. But the truth is, they might already have on their hands the blood of some young soldier or that of an Afghan family. Disagree with the war all you want, take issue with the policy, challenge me or our ground commanders on the decisions we make to accomplish the mission we've been given. But don't put those who willingly go into harm's way, even further in harm's way, just to satisfy your need to make a point.
We contacted the White House as a group before we released this material and asked them to help assist in going through it to make sure that no innocent names came out, and the White House did not accept that request. We did not offer them a chance to veto any material, but rather we told them we were going through a harm minimization process and offered them the chance to point out names of informers or other innocents who might be harmed. And they did not respond to that request.
Julian Assange ending there. Now, I'm joined in the studio by Heather Brooke, the Freedom of Information campaigner, and from Sacramento, California, by Adrian Lamo, who recently caused controversy by exposing a US Army intelligence analyst as the alleged source for recently leaked documents. Thanks to you both for joining me this evening. Heather, there is now a criminal investigation and there are allegations that that website has hurt people. Blood on their hands was the phrase.
That's not actually the allegation. The allegation is that they may and they might. And I think that's really crucial, is that this is all speculative harm that's being talked about. And what's not being talked about, what seems to be being ignored, is the actual harm, and that's what has been exposed through this leak. So I think that's important for us to think about in freedom of speech, is are we going to restrict speech based on actual harm or speculative harm? And the problem is, if we're going to start censoring based on speculative harm, then you know, the human imagination can speculate on anything. I could speculate that harm could result from saying pretty much anything.
Yeah, I get your point. Okay, let's ask Adrian Lamo what you make of that. Why did you report Private Manning?
Well, if you'll give me a moment, I would like to respond to the prior statement. Certainly, there is speculative harm there, but indeed there can be speculative harm from any number of quarters. However, there is a very real risk that has been articulated by the President of Afghanistan, by the Obama administration, saying explicitly these leaks articulate the identities of people who are colluding, assisting, and aiding the coalition forces. And these people are most likely going to be targets for reprisals. And these reprisals are not going to be mild. These reprisals are going to be a bullet to the head.
Heather Brooke, you did it, if you like, the right way. You went through the channels. You went through the Freedom of Information Act. You got what you wanted. Can you not see that this is a far more dangerous, precarious way of gathering information?
I think there's 2 points. The problem is that the people deciding, the Pentagon wants to have the monopoly on deciding what information is dangerous or not. And on the one hand, we might think, well, that's right that they should do so, but they also have an incentive to cover up information that would show up their mistakes. So they're not an impartial judge. They do have their own interests, which sometimes can clash with the wider interest of the public. As far as my investigation with MPs, and this was a similar situation in some way, where MPs, some of the excuses they used to try and keep that information secret was about national security. And I think we can all see, looking back on that exposure, that it wasn't about national security at all. It was about covering up mistakes, covering up corruption, covering up embarrassment. So we need to sort of find a better balance of, and maybe be a bit more skeptical that there is a danger of so much information is going to be classified that it basically degrades the quality of secrecy.
Adrian Lama, how did it make you feel? Did it make you feel patriotic when you turned Manning in?
It made me feel very sad that I could not have interdicted this leak prior to it being sent to WikiLeaks. I really and truly wish that it could have been prevented prior to it being put out into the public domain.
But you don't know what was in all that stuff. I mean, it happened so quickly. You can't have read everything in 90,000 pages before you decided what you decided.
You're absolutely right. I could not have read 90,000 pages, and neither could Julian Assange and his cohorts. And in fact, the allegation that he has engaged in a harm minimization process is negated by the fact that the identities of informants in Afghanistan are being revealed by these leaks.
But I think if we're going to just talk about what might happen, we could equally say that there was a problem in Britain where some they were interpreters in Iraq, and the British government had an agreement with them that they would protect them for the work they'd done, and in fact they didn't. And the Times newspaper found out about that, and it was only from publishing those stories that the informants actually did get some level of protection.
Okay, but that, that proves your point. But where would you draw the line? Is there no line you would ever draw about freedom of speech?
There is, but I think John Stuart Mill would say incitement to violence or actual harm, and I think those are the key concepts that my right to free speech ends where I'm actually endangering somebody else, and there has to be some sort of provable harm that could happen, and it cannot just be in the imagination or in the mind of somebody.
Okay. Thank you both very much indeed. Thank you.